Yeah, Pat, we're here.
Got it. All right. Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for finding the time. I cannot imagine how busy you are.
You know what? I'm just a guy who just goes a million directions at one time and tries to make sense of it all, right?
Well, you've done that in your life, man. I can tell you. I don't have, well, you don't need me to tell you that, but you know how much you've accomplished. But I think you have, like I said before, you have a unique perspective. And I told you before what all the different work we do with the veterans, with the from the mental health perspective and how we try to help them. And I think fighters, like I said before, fighters in general, but especially champion fighters like yourself, have a unique perspective because of the way you have to come back after the battle, come back into the so-called regular life. And that's why I think it's so valuable to kind of share your specific point of view on that. How did you manage it in your life, and how do you think these guys can do it? You know what I mean?
Well, Mike, I to be honest with you, that's the thing is, you know, mixed martial arts and combat sports is certainly can be very intense. You're putting everything on the line. You're on television with the world watching, whether you get your ass beat or whether you win. It's a roll of the dice. It definitely is, and so it's very intense, but it still doesn't even hold a candle to you know our military being in combat. And serving for as long as they do in theater, out of the country, away from their families. All of that sort of stuff that goes with it. And like I said, the when it really hit home for me, even all the years of working with law enforcement and military, when it really hit home for me, Dan Henderson and I and Don Fry did a USO tour, and we went to Afghanistan for a couple of weeks. And we were at one of the bigger bases, and we were signing autographs, and the line of military personnel was very long, very long.
Yeah, of course.
And so I started asking, I was thinking how much I missed my two young daughters and my wife at the time. And I started asking them, how long are you here for? And they said, a year, 15 months, that sort of stuff. And that's when it all sank in. And I had to do it. It was everything I had to do to just not start crying.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I'm sure.
just just realizing the sacrifice that these people were making. So I was already pretty endeared to the active duty and veterans, but at that point, my whole brain shifted, right? So I've just kind of done my best to help those that struggle health wise, mental, physical, all of that stuff. Just because I've spent a lot of years working on how can I create monsters? What type
Right.
of products belong in the human body that can heal, not only help your health, but make you perform at a super high level. And that's, I guess one of the areas that I can help people with. And so that's what we're supposed to do as civilians, and the people that didn't sign on the dotted line. We should be helping these people because they put their ass on the line for a number of years for my kids sleep under the blanket of freedom that they provided, and that's pretty important.
100% on a daily basis right now. And I don't think a lot of people realize, like you just said, they signed up 15 months, 2 years, whatever it is, but it's not just 15 months, 2 years. It's they're in daily danger. And like I said, you guys fought, but that's a fight that you choose to do. And it's still a competition. It's a friendly, let's call it friendly competition, but they go to war and they could literally, God forbid, die tomorrow, today. And they do it so that we can be safe, like you said, under our blankets here. Least we could do is help them. And I think a lot of times they need help. And I think the reason why, well, they obviously admire champions like yourself, like Dan, like Don. The reason is because you guys show this highest possible skill, and they respect that. But I think there's a deeper connection where they respect what you're doing and kind of see a little bit of themselves being warriors. They see that in you guys, and you guys exemplify that by your behavior. I think one aspect of what you also successfully you have done, and I know that Don Fry and others, is come back to this regular life. You guys are able to share your thoughts. You're able to kind of show that you belong not only in the battle, but you belong in this real so-called regular life. Sometimes they need help because they come back from this battle. They don't know, they have a tough time adjusting. And I think sometimes they may need help from people like yourself also in that department, because you do it on a regular basis, so to speak. I know it's a different battle, absolutely. But I think you always have gone into the battle with the mindset of this gladiator, where anything could still happen. I know it's not a war, it's not the same thing, but you go into a war and then you come back, you give an interview, you talk to people. How did you do that? Like, how were you able to maintain a mindset and then switch back to regular?
Well, I think, there's there's different coping mechanisms. I think, for me, I remember when I, was much younger and I had the UFC belt at the time. I had it for, I don't know, 3.5 years, whatever, almost 4 years. But I was in the prime of my professional career, physical health, strength, speed, endurance, all of that stuff. And to the average human being, you're pretty invincible. And I was walking through the mall. I was shopping for something, and I realized in this crowded mall that there was literally nobody in that mall out of thousands upon thousands of people that even remotely had a chance of winning any kind of physical confrontation with me, right?
Right.
So you feel like you're walking among sheep, like truly walking among sheep. And I know that that's, the combat veterans and veterans, when they come back and they see the selfishness of civilian society, and they've come from, guys that are willing to die and women that are willing to die for each other. A completely selfless mindset to a completely selfish world. And the way that I guess I can relate to that is that, when I'm training for a fight in those days, the guys that care about me will beat my ass the worst. They will kick the living shit out of me, to make me better. If I make a mistake, I'm going to pay a price, and I'm going to learn not to make that mistake anymore. And that's the way we would, sharpen each other. And then we all go in there, our hearts and our souls and everything go in there with that guy into the cage. And so, it's very important. And that's the same thing, on a lower level, that what we experience as professional athletes, and certainly as combat athletes, on a much lower scale than what these guys have gone through and these women have gone through, right? So when they come back, that camaraderie, that love, that literally giving for each other, doesn't exist in civilian society. It's a backstabbing world full of, lower thinkers in my mind. They don't have the spirit. They've not been through the experiences. There is no racism in a mixed martial arts room. You respect each other based on work ethic, on love, intensity, camaraderie, all those things. It doesn't exist. And so it's the same thing, even more extremely. Like, it doesn't matter what color, what religion, what anything is, when you guys are in battle and fighting with each other. It's just that's the way it is. And so that's the thing that I guess helps me understand when they come back, the situations that they fall into, at work, for instance, like we talked about. I'm the same guy. I come from the TV industry as well. I spent 15 years doing broadcasting.
Right.
The TV industry, they don't know what to do with a guy like me, because I'm just very blunt and I just say things. It's like one time we were interviewing a fighter from South America. Guy has blonde hair, blue eyes, and his last name is something like Schultz.
Right.
So my executive producer from the network, is sitting next to me at the table. And I'm looking at this kid and I'm talking to him, and he speaks English. And I said to him, I go, okay, blonde hair, blue eyes, last name Schultz. I go, so tell me, your grandfather was a Nazi and he escaped to South America.
Oh my God.
And my producer goes, Jesus Christ, Miletich, what the fuck's wrong with you? And I go, I'm asking a question, dude. I'm asking.
It was a question. It was not a statement, right?
I'm asking a question. And the kid looks at me and he goes, yeah, you're 100% correct. 100% correct. And I go, okay, I'm not going to highlight this on TV. I'm not going to talk about it, but I want to know,
Right.
because I actually know a little bit about history and things like that. So that's the kind of stuff that I always ran into working for television networks. They didn't know what to fucking do with me. And so that's, I hear veterans all the time where when they're at work, they will be direct like that with people.
Yeah.
And it totally throws a wrench in the way people have been softened up in the civilian world. Modernity makes men weak. it makes everyone weak, right? So that's why it's like you listen to David Goggins say, do something, one thing per day that absolutely sucks, so that when the shit goes sideways, you won't be as affected by it, and
You
and he's
prepare for it.
correct. He's correct. It is. So yeah, that's the thing that I tell, veterans is, keep doing that sort of thing. Find a group of people that are jujitsu or combat sports, just to be around them, just to stay in shape, just to have that piece, that mindset of camaraderie again.
Yeah.
That's a big piece, I think, for people.
Huge. And I think it's more than just camaraderie, it's respect. It's respect that I think is missing quite a bit in our society, like I said. But just in that example you said about when you were doing the interview with the blonde hair guy, ultimately it's about being direct. And I think they have a tough time in the army or anywhere they serve, these men and women, they're used to being direct, they're used to being straightforward. Anything they say it is what it is. And just because you call something precisely what it is, you're looking at something and saying it is what it is, does not mean you make any kind of political statement. You're just saying things. A lot of times our society is not used to being direct. They're used to dressing things up and being bullshit about it. And I think a lot of times veterans have a tough time coming back from that atmosphere of respect and straightforwardness and having each other's back to where they have to fit into the backstabbing type of environment. But I think exactly as you said, they need this type of level of support where respect exists, which is martial arts, which is fighting, which is competition. Because you fought, but then you respect. There's no level of respect greater than the army or the martial arts. In other words, because the level of respect that exists in those two worlds is unique and unmatched. And I admire that so much. And I think a lot of times veterans need that type of environment to transition to a regular, because unfortunately it's a minority today. It is not a majority, it is a minority. And I understand, and they do understand, they just don't know sometimes what to do. So I think that's part of the work that we do, and I know you do, is help them go through this adjustment period. And I'm big on that as well. I think it's so needed. Once they get that and once they perceive that it exists here, they have an easier time doing it. Can you tell me just a bit more? I know I don't want to take a lot of your time, but more about the products you mentioned. I know you sell and you help produce different products that help people become chemically free and more organic in their nutrition.
Yeah, I'd love to. One thing that I discovered in my early 20s was that doctors were not helping me. I had severe respiratory issues and illness through my entire childhood because of black mold exposure. My mother's basement leaked, and that's where my bedroom was, and it was constantly, every time it rained. So
right.
I was ill all the time. I couldn't breathe. I did my best to be good at athletics. I was all state in football and wrestling, but I could never be the actual, like the champion in like this. In Iowa, it's difficult enough to be a state champion in wrestling, but I got on the podium, but I was suffocating literally every wrestling match. So it was very difficult. I got sick of that problem, and
right.
I did the research. My back, was against the wall, so to speak, with my health. And I finally figured it out through reading a lot and talking to a lot of experts. And I got on antioxidants. So those are concentrated organic nutrients with the ability to clean your cells out and raise oxygen levels within the cell and feed the mitochondria, which is the furnace of the cell. So in 10 days, I went from suffocating during sparring with high-level pro boxers to going 12 rounds with them and easily doing it. So I went from breathing through a straw and suffocating to breathing through what I felt like a giant piece of PVC tubing that was crystal clear. And everything changed. And that's why I won a world title. And that's why I was able to, have people come to me. They wanted to become champions as well. We, produced a lot of world champions and a lot of really great fighters, and was able to, was invited to start training law enforcement and then military and then broadcasting and all of these things. None of this would have happened had I not discovered that. And I've spent so many years, over 3 decades, researching, substances that can help heal people. I educate people how to heal themselves, right? And that's super important, that we can't say that I'm not capable of healing any disease. And anybody that claims that they get in trouble for it, right?
Right.
But we can educate people on what's out there, that what is in nature and concentrated organics that can help clean these toxins out. Because as synthetic chemicals and heavy metals are more prevalent in our environment, it's inevitably going to end up in the human body and in the cells, and those cells eventually malfunction, and that results in cancer or respiratory issues or digestive issues or arthritis or mental problems, all kinds of different things that happen because of cells just malfunctioning because of the toxins. So we just want to help people understand that if you get that stuff out of the cells, more than likely you're going to experience, less of those symptoms, and you're going to feel a lot better, and you're going to be able to do more things with your life. You're going to be able to work out again, and you're going to be able to accelerate, everything. And exercise alone is difficult for people once they start getting sick. They can't breathe. It sucks. Why would I want to go work out and suffocate every freaking day, and I can't figure out why it's happening? So we just want to help people understand that part, so that that they can free themselves from a system that most people just are not educated in terms of what can give them freedom.
Yeah, I think they don't have the option. They don't know what else is available, and they can decide for themselves what's better, what's not. It is what it is. You're not a doctor. You're just kind of presenting things they may not know about. And I think when it comes to and you said there's a direct connection, in my opinion, as well, to mental health, between physical and mental well-being. Sure. Everything is interconnected. Once they don't feel good physically, it kind of translates into mental problems, and then they cannot reach their best potential. I think it's applicable to even to the veterans that we're talking about, and many other groups of people. It's all part of the same thing. Pat, I truly appreciate your time. I kind of wanted to cover all these things, and I really hope we'll talk again about these topics and talk more about your work, what else you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll talk anytime, buddy. Anytime.
Let me stop the recording.